Hello everyone. Oh my god, it has been so long since I've done a long form YouTube voiceover time lapse. It's honestly been so long. I don't live where I used to live and I have no idea where my old microphone is, so that's why I sound all janky. I took such a long time off because I decided to remodel my home and turn it into an Airbnb. So I spent what I thought was going to be like 3 months, actually took 6 months. So I was just basically covered in construction plaster dust for 6 straight months trying to get this done. And I was doing a lot of the work myself, and it was great because I saved a lot of money, but at the same time it did take a lot longer, and anytime you've had to coordinate contractors, it just takes so much time. So it's taken me a really long time. I took 6 months away from painting, and this is the first painting I did once I finished that process. That being said, this painting alone also took me 6 months, so an entire year away from being able to post because I haven't really had anything to share with y'all. I have been posting a lot of clips and updates on my TikTok and my Instagram, so those are really good places to follow if you want to keep up to date with whatever I'm currently working on and not wait for all these long form videos that take me, if a painting takes me 6 months, then it's a 6-month wait before my next video. My paintings don't usually take me 6 months, though. This is a very rare occasion where a painting has taken me this long. And I think a lot of that is because after I was on my 6-month hiatus where I was working on a remodel and couldn't even think about painting, I really just was so starved for the experience that once the remodel was over and I finally had time to sit down with some paint and a canvas, I didn't have a plan. I had a rough idea of what I was going to paint. I've had this idea of a Seraphim in my head for ages, and I was just ready to just go for it, and I dove head first into this painting without a plan, without a mock-up. I barely found a reference photo that I didn't really doctor correctly and just dove headfirst. So there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of experimenting with this and trying these other things and just kind of making all these it was a very winding road to get to the end of this painting. For this crown, for instance, I had no plan on what I was doing with the crown. I knew I wanted to do pearls and I wanted to do crystals, but beyond that it was very touch and go on what I wanted to do, and I sketched out a bunch of stuff after the fact, after I had started the painting, and there were a lot of putting it down and then kind of taking it off or moving it around. So this was a great reminder of why it's so important to really plan your paintings out before you put paint to canvas. But it was also a great reminder that if you persevere, you can really come out with something great, even if you didn't plan. Even though it's frustrating and time consuming and does take a lot longer, it's still something that is doable. So, if you have a moment like I did where you just want to dive head first into something, you can still definitely get to the end and come out with a really great result. It's just going to take you a lot longer to get there. In these next few clips, you can really see me kind of pushing and pulling the shapes of things and moving them around and changing the colors a little bit. Right here specifically, I wasn't sure about these eyes from the beginning, and then I tested them out just to see how I felt, but I never felt good about them, and finally made the decision to just cover those bad boys up, and I think it really adds to the mysteriousness or the mystical aesthetic of the piece to have the eyes closed or covered. After being able to paint as a hobby part-time for, years whenever I wanted to, and then going full-time and painting every single day as part of my living, to then not painting at all for 6 straight months and just completely like putting that down, basically cold turkey. It really, really got me thinking about creativity and where it comes from, and why as artists do we feel this intense urge to put stuff out there and create these things that we are creating. And I started looking into a lot of the philosophies behind it, and I came across The Artist's Way, which has been really fascinating, and how it talks about like this divine creative force. And I was also thinking clearly a lot about divinity and like kind of transcendental beings, and it all just kind of converged on this piece where I could not stand that I hadn't painted. I had this image in my mind and I had to get it out of me. And in that, I didn't really feel like it was coming from me. It felt more like I was a conduit for some creative force that had kind of attached itself to me, and it needed to be brought to paper. And while I could have planned it, I didn't. I just had to get it out of me. So I sat down and started doing it. And I find working in this capacity where I just have kind of a vague idea that is eating at me, that has to come out, and it doesn't have the patience for me to wait and like fully flesh it out in my mind or digitally beforehand. It's just like paint me now, paint me now. It kind of works almost as the antithesis of how the elitist art world kind of works, where you have to come up with this meaning or this series. You have to know what it is you're saying with a piece, kind of before you've even tried to paint it oftentimes. And I realized that I don't necessarily work that way. A lot of the times, I just know there's a feeling. There's a feeling that I have to sit down and I have to get it out, and it comes out in these images that, maybe it's my subconscious, maybe it's an amalgamation of a bunch of other images I've seen, maybe it is some sort of like transcendental divine muse that just settled on me because I was available at this time. I don't necessarily know, and I don't pretend to know, but when you work in that way, where you're more of a conduit, it's really hard to be like, oh, I know exactly what I'm painting. I have it fully fleshed out from the beginning, and this is the meaning, and this is what I'm going to tell my gallery or my collectors. So a lot of the time, it's just a feeling, and it's just an image, and those are the things that kind of pour out of me, and my collectors help me fill in the blanks for what the meaning is. Because I'm a very visual person, and these feelings come to me in these images, and I don't always know exactly how to put it to words, but I know that it's moving me, and it's moving others, and a lot of times the others help me fill in those gaps that I have about me and about my own painting and what I've just created. I'm always so fascinated with just like these kind of intangible discussions on creativity and where inspiration comes from and how one derives meaning from artwork. So if you've got any ideas on the subject, please put that in the comments below. If you've got any like philosophies I need to check out or anything like that, those are the types of things I love to read. Or just your thoughts, your comments. Let's start a discussion, because I feel like everybody's got a different idea on where their inspiration comes from, or whether or not they're a conduit or a vessel for creativity, or if they feel like they have full ownership of their ideas and whatnot. Years ago, I was working on writing a fantasy script, and I don't know that I was necessarily a good writer, but what I was really good at, obviously, is like imagery and kind of coming up with these really wonderful, surreal ideas of, this fantasy world where it's a little twisted, a little different, or reimagining certain things in different ways. Anyway, so I started on this script, and I had a friend at the time who was, a creative partner that I worked with, And then I never did anything with it. And then like a decade later, they send me a script that they're working on. And while it's not the script, like the story that I was working on, there were so many elements of the world that I had built that at first I think I was a little bit like, oh my God, that came directly from me. And like, you read that script and whatnot. And, you know, they were very like, yeah, I know. I definitely got inspiration from what you were doing, but it felt right for my story. And there's a part of me that kind of released it almost immediately, because I think at my core, what I believe is that none of our ideas are ours. I do think that there's like an ether out there that we can tap into to get our ideas or our inspiration, and like, you know, maybe it visits us one time, but if you don't do anything with it, that idea or that inspiring energy or that muse, what have you, will move on to another person to get that idea out there. And maybe that's a little bit silly because it's kind of like personifying creativity or inspiration and giving it this kind of like autonomous will that it's the one who chooses who is going to be the vessel for it. But you know, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with thinking kind of the world might be based on such silly thoughts. It's totally fine with me. There's another part of philosophies that I've been reading where nothing has no meaning, and if nothing has meaning, then it can mean whatever you want. So if I choose to, I can assign such silly little ideas that creativity is a being of its own and inspiration makes the decision for you, and we are but mere puppets for it. You know, we have to agree, of course, we have to consent to being those conduits for them to get their ideas out there. But in the end, it's really, inspiration is not human. It's something transcendent that comes from these other beings. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about creativity. Is it just some random part of human subconsciousness that comes out? Is it a transcendental being? Is there just like a subconscious ether that we all just kind of pluck information from? Or is it something else? I do want to know, because I do find it really fascinating. These are just really tasty, delectable little thoughts to kind of swirl around in my brain and, you know, breathe in. So yeah, put those down in the comments. And then back to the piece, back to the art. Getting this varnished was really the greatest thing. It was so satisfying to varnish this piece. And then I do have prints available for pre-order. If you're interested in the original, I am sorry, this original sold before I even had it varnished. To one of my lovely collectors. I'm so thrilled. I'll be driving it up to hand deliver her in the spring because I do not trust to ship it. I do have prints available, and I do have a life-size giclée available if you're interested. So go ahead and check out my website and send me an email if you're interested in the giclée. The pre-order is available at a discount for now. It ends at the end of this week. And then after that, the price does go up. So the prints are 12.5 by 19 inches, so they're a pretty good size print. And they all come signed by yours truly. The link for that will be in the description of this video, so go ahead and check that out. And if you guys have made it this far on this video, first, thank you so much for sticking with me. I apologize for my extra long posting hiatus. Hopefully now that I'm back in the studio and churning out paintings again, I can start posting more regularly. And if you're new here, please go ahead and click the subscribe button. You know, like, comment, share, all those wonderful free things you can do to support creators that you are fond of. Also, just a heads up, I think I'm ready to open my commissions again, so if you're interested in a mystical kind of oil painting or portrait of yourself in a mystical way, do slide on into my DMs, because I would love to chat about making that happen for you. All right, loves, thank you so much for sticking with me. I'm going to sign off now. Enjoy the rest of the video, And again, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that beautiful stuff. And do check out my website with the prints. And put comments in the below about what you think creativity comes from. And then after you've done all that, then yeah, you can rest up and sign off. Okay, bye.